Let's dive into something that so many of us feel but rarely talk about: the psychology of feeling unwanted. It's not always this big, dramatic event. More often, it's this quiet, internal voice that can totally shape how we see our world.
And really, at the very core of it all is this question, right? Do I actually matter to anyone? It's a thought that can just creep in and echo in the back of your mind, whether you're in a room full of people or you're completely by yourself. It's that quiet doubt that really fuels this whole feeling.
And from the outside, everything can look totally fine. You're laughing, you're talking, you're going about your day. But on the inside, these little thoughts are popping up, like maybe they don't really want me here, or I feel like I'm bothering them. It's this silent weight that you carry around, hidden behind a perfectly normal life.
So, where on earth does a feeling this powerful even come from? Well, psychology tells us that the roots, they're often buried deep in our past, in experiences that shaped us in ways we might not even be aware of.
A lot of the time, it starts with things like rejection or emotional neglect. And it doesn't have to be one huge traumatic event. It can actually be the small, repeated moments where you were made to feel like you were too much, or maybe the opposite, that you were not enough. It could have been a home where attention and affection just felt scarce. And slowly, that starts to build a story about yourself.
And here's kind of how that works. First, you have those repeated experiences. Then, your brain, which is just trying to protect you, starts to notice a pattern. And finally, that pattern hardens into this core belief: I am not really wanted. And from that moment on, that belief becomes the filter for almost everything you experience.
Okay, so once that core belief is locked in, the brain starts building these, let's call them protective walls. But these walls, they show up as very specific behaviors and thought patterns in our daily lives. So what does that actually look like in the here and now?
Well, look at how this plays out. You might find yourself overanalyzing everything. Suddenly, a text that takes a while to get a reply feels like proof of rejection. You become super careful not to be too loud or ask for too much. You might be the person who always listens more than they talk, who gives more than they ever ask for, and you might even keep people at a distance. And it's not because you don't care, it's the exact opposite. It's a way to protect yourself from getting hurt again.
And this is the great irony in all of this. Often the people who feel the most unwanted are some of the most caring, loyal people you will ever meet. And why is that? It's because they know exactly how painful it is to feel that way. Their quietness isn't because they're indifferent, it's a fear of being too much. And their people-pleasing, that comes from a place of deep empathy, from a desire to make sure that no one else has to feel left out.
You see, all of this connects back to one of the most fundamental human needs we have: the need to belong. We are literally wired for connection. Feeling accepted, feeling valued, that is the bedrock of our self-worth and our confidence. And when that need is threatened, it attacks the very core of who we believe we are.
But here's the thing. This is where we can start to shift things. We've talked about the feeling and where it comes from. Now let's get into how we can start to challenge that old story that our brain has been telling us for so long.
I want you to just sit with this for a second. Your brain's number one job is to protect you from pain you felt before. But what if its strategy is outdated? What if in its effort to keep you safe, it's actually creating fears that are no longer true? And this, right here, is the most important thing to remember. Your mind is holding on to old baggage and projecting it onto brand new situations. A feeling, no matter how powerful it is a reaction. It is not necessarily a reflection of reality. That fear you feel is just an echo from your past, not a forecast for your future.
Okay, so this brings us to our last and honestly most powerful section. This is all about recognizing that your value is a given. It's inherent. It's not something you have to prove or earn. Just let that sink in for a moment. Sometimes appreciation is quiet. Sometimes people value your presence way more than they let on. Your worth isn't up for a vote, and it definitely doesn't change based on how much applause you get. Your presence, just you being here, matters. Period.
So, what are the key takeaways here? First, please know there are people who appreciate you, even if they're not shouting it from the rooftops. Second, remember that your mind's fears, they aren't always telling you the truth. That old story does not have to be your reality. Third, you absolutely deserve to be in spaces where you feel welcomed and valued for exactly who you are. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you are not alone in feeling this way.
And so that kind of leaves us all with one final thought to carry with us. Now that we know about this quiet, internal struggle, what's our part in all of this?
How can we be more aware, more intentional about creating environments at work, with our friends, in our own families, where every single person feels, without a shadow of a doubt, that they truly belong?